While our support conditions met, like we were talking about yesterday for GTII, we must keep an eye on a few other factors. Let's go ahead and go over those now. What is up, you guys? Thank you so much for stopping by once again. This is ARCa coming at you with a GTII technicals, raw price action, and statistical thread of analysis on this Hump Day Wednesday. Before we get started, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share the video with a friend so that you and them could consider joining our trading community in Discord called ARCa Bulls. With that said, let's dive right into the charts. Okay, so yes, we definitely got the bounce that we were looking for. We had a range of about 151, I believe, to about 162, right around there, right? So we actually ended up getting the bottom side of about 152. And very exciting times, right? So this is actually the candle here we were talking about coming back down to this box or using the mean reversion variant mean as the area for a bounce. And in fact, we just slightly failed it, came to our initial support and used it again. Then used it for a continuation to the upside. Now, usually when we print these candles like this, when we have an equal-sided wick from the downside to the bottom side and a body in the middle like this, that's called an indecision doji or a spinning top doji, and that usually reflects a tie between the bears and the bulls, if you will. It is a 4-hour candle. I don't usually look at candle analysis too much in the shorter time frames, but it is indicative of that. So let's continue with the analysis here and see what else we have. Okay, so just to give you the perspective here on the 5-day descending channel, this is in fact the other area that we were using as a potential support bottom, right at that 150 level, and the candle came right down to it and bounced right off of it per our expectations, right? So and another very interesting thing here is that if we are able to close this candle upside of the $1.50 zone, that would mean that we close our 5-day iteration candle above the newly converted resistance from the channel into now a support, right? So that would be a very good thing for us to close this that 5-day candle above that target, as it would suggest for either a continuation to maybe some sideways trading before a continuation to the upside, or it may actually suggest an upside continuation here. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue the analysis and see what else we have in store. I do have a few things to talk to you about, and yeah, particular to the weekly time frame, this is that bottom side that we got, right? We were looking at it because it's the knot 618 at 156. So the knot 618 at 156 is very curious because this is a weekly chart, and if we actually take a look at, let me actually show you to see if I have it right around here. But the 156 target is landing. I forgot where. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's there, right? So so let's go ahead and just see what else we have in store for us, as I would like to find out to see if we have a likely downside or not. So very nice chart setup here, inspired by my moderator Cal, the administrator himself, right? So he had an idea to push the indicators to the side, and I'm like, wow, that looks really cool. How did you do that? I forgot that you're able to actually do it within the trading view options here for visibility. So yeah, so in this case, I can actually see a very short-term opportunity coming up for an upside. And that is actually based around the volatility versus momentum profile. And you can see that we're actually starting to expand here from critical volatility, which is within the 15th percentile of contraction. And usually when we have both of the momentum and the spectrum, with the spectrum line, which is the volatility component of the BBWP, which represents volatility, we tend to get a move. We tend to get a move either to the upside or downside, but we pair it with stochastic momentum to get that bias for direction, right? So in this case, we can see that we're starting a little bit of a pivot here, and we could be facing an upside in the immediate short-term time frame. So if I were to put kind of a target for this, it would. I mean, remember, this is the bi-hourly. The resistance touch is not the biggest thing in the world, right? So this is it's likely for just a very short-term move. So from the current price action of about $1.62, very likely that we can face a resistance on the bi-hourly from the SMA 10 to about the SMA 200 at about 7.5% to the upside at 174. Of course, we still have the possibility to run up to the SMA 100 as well, which would then make a 12% move to the upside. but I would find a higher likelihood at that 174 for a very short-term move, right? So let's go ahead and continue our validation process. Now, this is that very speculative 3-day volatility versus momentum backtest, right? The very one that has that stupid dinosaur at 2014 instead of 1994, right? So in this case, we were actually in the process of tracking our stochastic momentum. So please just take a look here that it is actually following kind of the direction that we've been expecting, right? So we were expecting a pivot point from the 14-day simple, which is the blue line, and we were expecting a pivot point from the EMA3 shorter time frame moving average, right? So this is why I left the orange line representing yellow and the blue line representing the teal for the for the 14-day simple. So it is actually moving in our favor, okay, which would entail that the statistical move to the upside is in fact still on. Okay, so we have to keep an eye on this, guys. Remember that it's things get a little weird, okay, when we start to extend our statistical probabilities longer than they actually suggest to do so. But we still have we're still within the lower end of the first standard deviation as far as duration. Okay, so the duration is months long. But let's go ahead and continue on the analysis here. So now, in regards to the 6-hour volatility versus momentum, which is actually one that I did give you the upside thrust. Standard deviation alongside the first standard deviation lower end and higher end, right? So in respects to this particular move, the signal has officially been exhausted and it has officially been met. Okay, now what I mean by that is actually anytime that volatility has expanded into a very particular area here, this is within the 80 to 90% of expansion and started a contraction phase towards the downside paired with volatility with an upside pivot. We have gotten 30 iterations throughout the entire trading history of the GTII asset on the 6-hour time frame, of which 24 were guessed correctly to the upside, giving us an upside accuracy of 80%, meaning that upon the condition that we saw here, there's an 80% chance that we would likely make a move to the upside that has an average probability of 100.542% to the upside over the span of about 14 days. Okay, so what we ended up doing is that upon the firing of this signal here, so just so you can see just how far this actually went, right? So this was the firing of the signal at the opening of this candle here. So we ended the signal right at about this zone here, which ended up taking 6 days out of the 14 days. See how the averages kind of work out? And another thing is that according to the first standard deviation, you have 89.56%, right? So with the lower end of the first standard deviation ending at a 10.98. So 11% would essentially be the smallest move that this iteration, or the conditions between the expansion to contraction along with volatility or momentum, that would be the lowest possibility that the move can make with an 80% accuracy. Okay, so now the highest end was 190%. So we in fact made a move that was about 36.86%. So that's just to kind of like show you how we're able to, or how I'm able to identify the upper targets or identify a range between the probabilities based on a volatility versus momentum profile backtest, right? So if we are getting a mean of about 100%, that it's just a mean, right? It's just a statistic. It's just a probability. It actually is not a certainty whatsoever. So we shouldn't take it as such. Right. So in this case, you are furthering your statistics into a deeper stat. Right. So now that you have the lower end of the first standard deviation at about 11%, you have the higher end. Then upon the firing of the signal, that would mean that you would actually start to then map out your key areas of resistance and or previous supports and back them with Fibonacci ratio and all of that stuff, right? So now if we take a fib from that candle where it fired, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So let's just do it like this and take a look where we stopped. Okay, so this is where we stopped right here. And please notice that we stopped right under the 3.618 golden mean, which is usually what happens when we make these upside moves. We end up finding ourselves within a golden mean of one of the 618 ratios from the Fibonacci retracement sequence, right? So I mean, I've never even checked into that myself for this particular time frame, because oftentimes I just trust the data, and the data says what it will, and it'll make an upside, right? But your validation process would be okay, what are our resistances, right? So you would note down that we have a 186 probability based on a 3.618. We have right here at the bottom side of this candle, the low, right? You can see it on the L, the low right there, 185 has direct confluence with the 3.618 at $1.86. The opening of this candle here, you can see that at O, right? You can see that it's at 189, right? So you have the opening of the following candle at 187. All of those candles have something to do. Even these right here, right? So you're looking at an opening of 184. You're looking at a close on this one of 184 as well. So all of those targets, guys, all of this has a lot to do with the way that I look at things, right? So now that you can see that you have a key resistance, right? So you could probably guess that the upside would probably land no more than 36% of the 89.56% first standard deviation move to the upside, right? So this is how things are done, right? As far as a systematic trader is concerned, right? So this is just or quantitative outlook, right? So this is just, just the way it is. So now there's another opportunity kind of coming up, guys, and it's very exciting because we are getting the bi-weekly Gaussian channel close. What I mean by close is actually that this bi-weekly iteration is going to close in a day and 20 hours. So very likely we'd see the effects of this by by Monday, right? Because we would close it by Friday. So, closing upside of the mean band, which is located at 131, would actually be a very bullish statement for the asset. And the Gaussian channel breakouts are usually indicative of a continuation to the upside, right? So not all of them are impulsive like that, but they do have an upside probability based on us validating that support. Okay, so yes, we are at that support now, and we are currently continuing, right? So another very curious thing is actually the monthly, and the monthly is just riding the top side of the Gaussian channel here. Very interesting that we're following it so closely, right? So that could also indicate a potential continuation to the upside. As you can see, there's massive expansion here happening in the monthly time frame, right? So very, very, very interesting times here. Okay, so now let's look at the last part of the analysis here, so we can just get this thing rolling and finished up. 30-minute immediate short-term time frame suggesting a little bit of support here from the 14-day simple moving average is going to be it's going to be a very short-lived downside as far as that is concerned. Okay, so now the 4-hour time frame, I'm not sure what I can do with these pivots here. Usually I don't like to trust them because they tend to fake out, right? So if there was a continuation to the upside, we have the 14-day simple as resistance there. Okay, same situation here with the 8-hour. Not sure what to do with that little pivot, but the daily time frame is suggesting a continuation to the downside, but with a little bit of loss from the bear pressure. Okay, so remember that these things are likely to happen just within the next day or two. It has nothing to do with the macro perspective and the possibilities of GTII running to higher values, right? So it's just kind of giving you a forecast as to what to maybe or potentially expect, right, for the next couple days. So bi-daily RSI is suggesting a downside here, and it is bouncing right from that 14-day simple moving average and the gravitational zone of the bull weakness percentile. Okay, so, and also the same situation here with the 5-day. In fact, the 5-day is showing more of a consolidation behavior instead of it actually capitulation, right? So meaning that the upper time frames are a little bit in, or they're waiting for the sympathy, or they're in sympathy to the smaller time frame. Sorry. So I can't really tell you what could be happening tomorrow, other than the fact that we could be facing some consolidation. There is a slight bearishness, there is slight upside, and just usually when you have that downside and upside, that leads to sideways trading, right? So which could be indicative of the asset pending some news or pending some type of fundamental catalyst, okay? But everything is still looking very nice. Please remember that I do have that short-term upside play here. The biggest possibility, I think, is 181, and I think that would be the least probable out of the two targets, right? Meaning 169 to about 174. Okay, so and you know, just kind of keep that in mind. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen. I'm just telling you that that's what the charts are kind of indicating here. Okay, so please remember that I am not a financial advisor. Okay, you guys, I do still have a few seats left, sorry, of the ArcMasters trading course. Find that Gmail in the description below and get enrolled. Okay, you guys, so please remember that I cannot suggest for you to buy or sell any assets whatsoever. I need you to do your own due diligence and everything will be all good. Okay, you guys, but with that said, I wish you well a very, very good night and I will catch you at the bell. Mañana. Adios.